Hae Soo accidentally notices a scar on Eunha's side. Before she can react, he pulls her shirt aside to get a better look. The sudden action leaves Eunha completely shocked. But Hae Soo barely notices her reaction. His eyes remain fixed on the scar, as if he has seen something important. Trying to understand what he's feeling, Hae Soo keeps staring at the scar. The more he looks, the more unsettled he becomes. Finally, he asks Eunha a simple question. Why were you hurt? When Eunha hesitates, Hae Soo reaches a conclusion on his own. This wasn't something you did to yourself. Someone else did this to you. Then he asks the question that changes everything. Who was it? Hae Soo's question brings back a memory Eunha has never forgotten. The story shifts to her middle school years. If she had to describe Kim Taerin in one word, Eunha would call her a fateful disaster. The first time they met, Taerin sat down in front of her and asked a question no normal student would ask. Can you see ghosts? Instead of avoiding Eunha, Taerin becomes even more interested. She bombards her with questions. What are ghosts like? Have you seen them since birth? Did something happen to you? Eunha struggles to answer. But what surprises her most is that Taerin doesn't look scared. If anything, she looks excited. Eventually, Taerin reveals why she approached Eunha in the first place. She had seen Eunha talking to herself in the art room. Not once. Many times. Other students noticed it too. Combined with the rumors surrounding Eunha, people started believing she could see ghosts. Only then does Eunha realize how others have been viewing her. Taerin then mentions something else. Apparently people had seen Eunha entering a house covered with red and white flags. To everyone else it looked suspicious. But Eunha is completely confused. She didn't even know the place belonged to a shaman. At that moment she realizes many of the rumors about her were built on misunderstandings. As they continue talking, two boys suddenly walk over. When they see Eunha standing beside Taerin, they look confused. Who is she? The question catches Eunha off guard. These boys are her classmates, yet they don't even recognize her. Before Eunha can say anything, Taerin immediately steps in. She's in our class. The boys finally ask Eunha to introduce herself. Immediately she becomes nervous. Her voice shakes. Her words stumble. After struggling for a moment, she finally manages to say her name. Seeing this, Taerin suddenly bursts into laughter. Not because she's mocking Eunha, but because she finds her unexpectedly adorable. Later, Eunha finally reveals one of her biggest insecurities. She's afraid her voice will shake whenever she talks to people. That's why she often practices speaking alone. The confession leaves Taerin silent for a moment. For the first time, she realizes Eunha isn't strange. She's lonely, and that's a very different thing. As Eunha spends more time around Taerin, she also ends up meeting a few of Taerin's friends. Seeing how popular Taerin is only makes Eunha admire her even more. To Eunha, Taerin seems like the kind of person everyone wants to be around, and for a moment, she feels happy just being accepted into that circle. But not everyone shares that opinion. After the meeting, one girl quietly pulls Eunha aside. She warns her not to trust Taerin too easily. According to her, Taerin isn't exactly who she appears to be. The warning catches Eunha off guard, but deep down, she doesn't want to believe it. Then Taerin suddenly asks a question. Can I come to your house tomorrow? The request catches Eunha completely off guard. For a moment she doesn't know how to respond. No one had ever asked her that before, and somehow Taerin asks it so casually as if the answer is already obvious. The more Eunha thinks about it, the more nervous she becomes. But before she can overthink the situation, the answer slips out. Okay. The moment she agrees, Taerin's face lights up. She thanks Eunha with surprising enthusiasm. For someone who only met her recently, Taerin seems unusually happy, and Eunha can't help but smile back. On her way home, Eunha can't stop thinking about tomorrow. She starts planning everything, cleaning the house, preparing snacks, making sure everything looks presentable. To anyone else it would seem like an ordinary visit, but to Eunha it feels like a special event because for the first time in her life, a friend is coming to her house. That night, Eunha can't stop thinking about tomorrow. For the first time, a friend is coming to her house. The thought alone makes her smile. But then another thought appears. Maybe she should have corrected the rumor that she can see ghosts. After school, Eunha brings Taran home. As they walk through the front gate together, Eunha feels a quiet excitement she has never experienced before. For the first time, she is sharing her small world with someone else. Someone she believes she can trust.
After school, Eunha finally brings Taran home. She tries her best to hide how nervous she is, but it isn't easy. This is the first time a friend has ever visited her house. As they step inside, Eunha quickly apologizes for how small and ordinary everything looks. To her, the house feels embarrassing. To Taran, it feels disappointing for a completely different reason. Instead of sitting down, Taran immediately starts looking around. Her eyes move across the walls, the furniture, and every corner of the house. Then she suddenly begins coughing. When Eunha asks if she's okay, Taran explains that she's sensitive to certain environments. A moment later, she asks a strange question. "Don't you have your own room?" Before Eunha can answer, Taran starts opening doors and checking the house herself. The longer Taran looks around, the more confused she becomes. There are no charms, no shrines, no signs of anything supernatural. The house looks completely normal. Only then does Eunha realize what Taran had been expecting all along. Because of the rumors at school, Taran thought she would find proof that Eunha could really see ghosts. When she finds nothing, Eunha becomes convinced that her friend is disappointed. Wanting to fix the awkward atmosphere, Eunha quickly heads to the kitchen. She grabs a bottle of juice and tells Taran to wait. At the same time, she finally decides to explain everything. The rumors, the ghosts, all the misunderstandings. But before she can say a word, Taran suddenly checks the time. Then her expression changes. She completely forgot about her cram school class. Without even touching the drink, Taran rushes out the door. The moment the door closes, Eunha is left standing alone. The bottle of juice is still in her hands. She keeps replaying the visit over and over. The questions, the silence, the way Taran looked around the house. Little by little, Eunha convinces herself of the worst possibility. Taran wasn't busy, she was disappointed. And the more she thinks about it, the more guilty she feels. Eventually, Eunha can no longer keep the secret to herself. The next time she sees Taran, she apologizes first. Then she tells her everything. She can't see ghosts. She was talking to herself in the art room. And the so-called shaman's house was never what people thought it was. By the time she finishes, Eunha is certain Taran will be angry. Instead, Taran quietly takes both of her hands and smiles. Eunha doesn't understand. She has just admitted everything. The rumors were false. The ghost stories were misunderstandings. Yet Taran still refuses to let go of the idea. Looking straight into Eunha's eyes, she quietly says, "I still think you have a special ability." The answer leaves Eunha speechless. For the first time, she genuinely doesn't know what to say. After a long silence, Taran finally explains herself. A year ago, her mother passed away. Ever since that day, there has been one question she could never let go of. Where did her mother go? Was she really gone forever? Or was she still somewhere out there? That question slowly became an obsession, and eventually it led her to Eunha. Taran admits that she wanted to believe. Not because she loved ghost stories, not because she enjoyed the supernatural. She simply wanted hope. If spirits really existed, then maybe her mother still existed too. Maybe she could see her one more time. Maybe she could hear her voice again, even if it happened only once. That conversation stays with Eunha long after they part ways. That night, she lies awake thinking about Taran's words. A daughter who misses her mother. A daughter desperately hoping to see her again. The more Eunha thinks about it, the harder it becomes to forget. Because deep down she understands that feeling better than anyone. She misses her own mother too. As the night grows quieter, Eunha stares at an old photograph. A photo she has looked at countless times before. She wonders where her mother is now. Whether she's safe. Whether she's happy. And for a brief moment, she finds herself wishing for the impossible. What if there really was a way to see someone who had disappeared? The next day, Taran brings Eunha to the abandoned science lab, the place surrounded by ghost stories and strange rumors. Taran still hasn't completely given up. A part of her still wants to believe there might be something waiting inside. So together, they step through the door, only to discover a group of students already gathered in the room. The haunted classroom turns out to be far less mysterious than expected. The moment they enter the room, the students inside immediately recognize Taran. Before anyone can explain what's going on, the room erupts into laughter. Apparently, Taran had been talking non-stop about ghosts, haunted classrooms, and Eunha's supposed ability. Now that everyone is standing inside the famous haunted lab, there is only one problem. Nothing is happening. No ghosts, no spirits, no supernatural events. Just an ordinary classroom filled with students. The boys immediately start teasing Taran. One joke turns into another. Some laugh at how seriously she believed the rumors. Others joke that she practically dragged everyone here chasing ghosts. To them, the whole thing is hilarious. But Taran doesn't seem embarrassed. If anything, she looks disappointed, not because people are laughing at her, because she genuinely wanted the rumors to be true. After a while, the laughter slowly dies down. Then Taran turns toward Eunha. Her expression suddenly becomes serious. For a brief moment, the room feels much quieter. Looking directly at Eunha, she asks a question that catches everyone off guard. Eunha, why did you lie to me? Before Eunha can answer, Taran continues, or are you making fun of me too? The question hits harder than anyone expected, especially Eunha. Back in the present, Eunha finishes telling Hae Soo everything that happened inside the science lab. For a moment, the room falls silent. Then suddenly, crack! A corner of the desk caves in beneath Hae Soo's hand. Without even realizing it, he has crushed the wood. The usually calm ghost is furious. His face darkens as he stares at Eunha. Not because he blames her, because he knows exactly how much those words must have hurt. Hae Soo slowly lowers his gaze. His fingers remain buried in the cracked wood. Then he asks a single question. Is that all? Eunha freezes. She thought the story was already over. But Hae Soo isn't satisfied. His voice grows colder. Keep going. As if he already knows there is still something Eunha hasn't told him yet. After Hae Soo demands the truth, Eunha hesitates. For a moment she just stares at the floor. Then she quietly continues. At least, things hadn't gone as badly as she first feared. But that didn't change what happened next. Because what Kim Taran did that day became something Eunha would never forget. The very first time in her life, someone slapped her across the face. The memory hits Eunha all over again. She can still hear the sharp crack echoing through the lab. Everything happened so fast. 1 second she was standing there. The next her cheek was burning. Her mind went completely blank. Not from the pain, but from the shock. She never imagined Taran would actually hit her. Panic instantly takes over. Eunha doesn't know what to do. She only knows one thing. She has to get away. Away from Taran. Away from that room. Away from those terrifying eyes staring at her. So she turns and runs, without thinking, without looking back. But before she can escape, a hand suddenly grabs her wrist. Eunha freezes. Someone stops her before she can leave. Her heart nearly jumps out of her chest. For a split second she thinks she's trapped. Again. Still terrified, Eunha desperately tries to break free and escape. But in the middle of the struggle, disaster strikes. Her arm slams into a nearby cabinet filled with chemical bottles. A loud crash echoes through the room. The shelves shake violently. And suddenly several glass containers begin tipping over. No one has time to react. Then everything goes wrong. One of the heavy chemical bottles falls from the shelf, straight toward Eunha. The bottle crashes into her body before anyone can stop it. A sharp scream fills the room. The sound instantly freezes everyone in place. Even Taran's face turns pale. For a second, the room goes completely silent. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Everyone simply stares at Eunha. The anger from moments ago disappears instantly, replaced by panic. Because this is no longer just bullying. Someone has been seriously hurt. Eunha collapses to the floor, trembling. Her vision blurs. The pain spreads through her body. Around her, the students finally realize the situation has spiraled out of control. Some stand frozen. Others don't even know what to do. The only thing everyone is thinking is, we're in serious trouble now. After the accident, Eunha eventually recovered. Most of her injuries healed with time, but the place where the chemical spilled the most never fully recovered. It left a scar behind, a permanent reminder of that terrifying day. And for a while, it seemed like things had finally changed. Kim Tae-rin suddenly stopped targeting her. Maybe she was afraid of getting punished. Maybe she realized she had gone too far. Either way, the direct bullying finally ended. For the first time in years, Eunha could walk through school without constantly fearing Tae-rin's next attack. But that didn't mean her nightmare was over. The rumors never disappeared. Instead, they followed her everywhere. The girl who could see ghosts. The weird girl. The cursed girl. Those labels stuck to Eunha all the way until graduation. No one wanted to get close to her. No one wanted to be associated with her. She was surrounded by people every day, yet completely alone. Even after Tae-rin stopped bullying her directly, the damage had already been done. The school had accepted the rumors as truth. And once everyone believes a lie, the truth stops mattering. Eunha wasn't just isolated anymore. She had become an outcast, someone everyone knew, but nobody wanted to understand. Eunha thought the nightmare was finally over. After the chemical accident, Kim Tae-rin stopped openly targeting her. The scars on her body slowly healed, except for the spot where the chemical had burned the deepest. But the damage wasn't just physical. The rumor that she could see ghosts followed her everywhere. Classmates avoided her, whispered behind her back, and treated her like someone they shouldn't get close to. By the time she graduated middle school, Eunha had become completely isolated. Then came high school. And that's when Tae-rin's bullying truly began. One day, Eunha was suddenly drenched with a bucket of cold water. The attack seemed random at first, but for Tae-rin, it was only the beginning. She wanted Eunha to know that changing schools wouldn't save her. Soaked and shivering, Eunha curled up on the floor while everyone watched. Then someone's eyes landed on the scar hidden beneath her shirt, the mark left by the chemical accident. For a brief second, the room fell silent, and that's when everything started to change. But then, everything changed the day Eunha met him. A boy standing alone inside the abandoned building. The moment she saw that face, her heart stopped. If she had met Hae Soo there from the very beginning, she would have run away immediately. Yet somehow, she didn't. Hae Soo said something to her that day. He even asked Eunha to draw him a picture, but strangely, she couldn't remember any of it. Not his final words. Not the conversation. Nothing. The memory felt blurred, as if someone had erased it. For the rest of the day, Eunha remained lost in thought. She didn't even notice when classes ended. Only after returning home did fragments of that memory slowly begin resurfacing. And then, one sentence finally echoed inside her mind. A sentence she had completely forgotten. The memory finally returned. Eunha remembered Hae Soo's face. Not the gentle smile he always showed her, but something far darker. A terrifying grin hidden in the shadows. And the words he whispered that day sent chills down her spine. Why didn't you ask me to kill her?
While heading to class with two classmates, Choi Gaeonwoo suddenly notices something outside the hallway window. The sight immediately catches his attention, and he stops walking. A moment later, Gaeonwoo's expression changes. Whatever he just saw clearly wasn't something he expected to find at school today. Without explaining anything, he tells the other two students to go ahead without him. Confused, they ask what happened. But Jeongwoo doesn't answer. Instead, he quickly turns around and rushes toward the stairs, determined to investigate whatever caught his eye. The story then shifts back to Eunha. Late at night, she lies in bed replaying the old recording over and over again. Eunha remembers that the recording was made by one of Hae Soo's former friends. If anyone knew the truth about him, it would probably be that person. But the warning only leaves her with even more questions. Nothing about the situation makes sense yet. She wonders if the ritual failed because she performed it incorrectly. After all, it was her first time trying something like this. Then another possibility crosses her mind. Maybe the ritual wasn't a complete failure after all. Eunha suddenly thinks about Hae Soo. What if he actually knows the correct way to perform the ritual? Staring at the recorder in silence, Eunha slowly starts connecting the pieces of the mystery. As Eunha keeps listening, the recording suddenly mentions teacher Hwang. According to the voice, the teacher was attacked by Hae Soo long before the events everyone knows about. The recording also claims that Gaeonwoo nearly died because of Hae Soo. The deeper they dig into his past, the more dangerous everything becomes. Those words leave Eunha frozen. For a moment, she doesn't know what to believe anymore. The voice keeps warning that every secret connected to Hae Soo seems to bring new disasters. Anyone who gets involved could end up paying a terrible price. Finally, Eunha stops the recording. Her expression grows serious as she tries to process everything she just heard. But then a painful memory flashes through her mind. She remembers the day she coughed up blood after getting involved with Hae Soo's mystery. For the first time, Eunha realizes the warning might not be an exaggeration. The danger surrounding Hae Soo could be very real. Eunha decides to stop overthinking. She convinces herself that the people who helped her only wanted to keep everyone safe. To calm herself down, Eunha turns off the recorder and tries to trust their warnings. But then a voice suddenly comes from the TV. A girl desperately cries, "I didn't do it. Why won't anyone believe me?" Those words instantly catch Eunha's attention. Something about them feels strangely familiar. A TV interview suddenly catches Eunha's attention. A collector starts talking about old cassette tapes and the mistakes people make when using them. The man explains that most people stop listening when side A ends, believing they've already heard everything. But in reality, they've only listened to half of the story. The rest is hidden on side B. The moment Eunha hears those words, a realization hits her. Maybe the recorder still contains something important. Without wasting another second, Eunha grabs the cassette and quickly flips it over to check the other side. Eunha quickly flips the cassette over, hoping to hear the hidden recording. But there's a problem. She has no way to play it. Meanwhile, the man on TV is asked why he loves cassette tapes so much. His answer immediately catches Eunha's attention. He explains that even when both sides contain the same album, side A and side B can tell completely different stories. Listening only to side A gives you one meaning. But after hearing side B, everything you thought you understood suddenly changes. Then comes the final message. If you think you've understood everything after hearing only one side, you're probably missing the truth. Sitting alone in the dark, Eunha freezes. The words feel less like a TV interview and more like a message directed straight at her. That night, Gaeonwoo received an unexpected visitor. His grandfather suddenly came to see him. Nobody knows what they talked about, but whatever the old man said left Gaeonwoo deeply troubled. This is the moment from the beginning of the chapter. The second Gaeonwoo spots Eunha in the distance, his grandfather's warning comes rushing back. Without even explaining himself, he tells his classmates to go ahead and immediately takes off running toward her. Meanwhile, Eunha has no idea Gaeonwoo is looking for her. She's still focused on the cassette tape and the unsettling message hidden within it. The moment Gaeonwoo finally catches up, he's completely out of breath. Rain pours down around them as he desperately calls Eunha's name. For a second, she freezes. She never expected him to come looking for her. For a brief moment, neither of them speaks. Rain fills the silence between them. Gaeonwoo knows he has questions. The problem is he has no idea where to start. Before Eunha can leave, Gaeonwoo stops her. "Listen to me. If I don't tell you today..." His voice trembles. For the first time, it feels like he's finally ready to reveal the truth. Gaeonwoo finally asks the question that has been haunting him. "Eunha, do you know who that visitor is?" The moment he asks, memories begin flooding back. Every time he tried to approach Eunha, every time he gathered enough courage to speak, something always stopped him. Gaeonwoo remembers seeing a terrifying shadow standing beside Eunha, a monster-like figure with a twisted body and a horrifying grin. Each time he saw it, fear forced him to back away. That's why he never managed to talk to her. Not because Eunha avoided him, but because he was too afraid to approach. Gaeonwoo finally understands why everything felt wrong. The bracelet he always wears hides his presence from supernatural beings. That's why the shadow never noticed him. But now that he's found the truth, things are about to get much harder. His eyes tremble. For a moment, Gyeonwoo falls silent, then a painful realization hits him. This. He clenches his fist so tightly his hand starts shaking. The person he's angry at isn't the monster. It's himself, because deep down, he knows the truth. You're a complete coward. The words cut deeper than any attack. All this time, he blamed fear. But fear wasn't the real problem. You never even had the courage to approach her. Yet despite that, you stayed nearby, watching from a safe distance, waiting for someone else to help. For the first time, Gyeonwoo stops making excuses. The monster wasn't what kept him away from Eunha. His own fear did. And now he has no one left to blame. The realization hits Gyeonwoo even harder. Back then, just like now, someone disappeared, someone suffered, and he stood there doing nothing, watching everything happen from the sidelines. Suddenly, a strange sound echoes through the hallway. Gyeonwoo immediately freezes. His fist is still clenched, but now, his attention shifts elsewhere. An uneasy feeling suddenly settles in Eunha's chest. She can't explain why, but for some reason she feels strangely uncomfortable, as if something important is missing. Then Hae Soo suddenly raises a hand to his ear, like he's listening to a distant sound. Something unusual, something no one else seems to notice. At the same moment, Eunha lowers her head. She felt a little scared. Then she recalled the conversation she had with Gyeonwoo in the rain.
As rain continues to fall, Eunha stands beneath an umbrella with Choi Gyeonwoo. After a brief silence, Gyeonwoo suddenly asks her a question. "Do you know what a visitor is?" Confused, Eunha asks him what he means. Gyeonwoo explains that his grandfather spent years researching folklore and supernatural legends, stories about ghosts. An old Walkman she recently found. Curious about its connection to the mystery, she shows it to Gyeonwoo. The moment he sees it, his expression changes. This isn't the reaction Eunha was expecting. Instead of treating it like an ordinary music player, Gyeonwoo immediately becomes interested. He carefully examines the device. Then he explains something strange. According to old folklore, certain objects can become connected to the spirit world. Looking at the Walkman, Gyeonwoo begins to suspect that this might be one of those objects. A bridge between the living and the dead. A clue connected to someone from the past. As rain continues to fall around them, Eunha can't stop staring at the old device. Because deep down, she has the same feeling. This Walkman isn't ordinary. And somehow, it may be connected to Hae Soo. After examining the Walkman, Gyeonwoo decides to help Eunha. Using materials he has available, he creates a special string of prayer beads. At first glance, the beads seem completely normal. But according to Gyeonwoo, they were inspired by methods his grandfather used while investigating supernatural phenomena. Then he explains how they work. If symbols appear on the beads, it means a spirit is nearby. A ghost, a lingering soul, something that shouldn't be there. But if the beads begin turning black, that means something much more dangerous is present, not just a ghost, but a malicious spirit capable of harming people. Hearing this, Eunha isn't sure whether she should believe him. Everything sounds unbelievable, yet after everything she's experienced, she can no longer dismiss the possibility. In the end, she accepts the beads. Eunha brings the prayer beads to school. At first, nothing happens. Classes continue as usual. Students talk among themselves. Everything seems normal. Then suddenly, the beads react. Symbols begin appearing on their surface, just like Gyeonwoo described. For a moment, Eunha freezes. She immediately remembers his warning. If the symbols appear, a spirit is nearby. Trying not to draw attention, Eunha carefully looks around the classroom. Everyone seems normal. No one is acting strange. No one appears out of place. Yet the beads continue reacting, meaning one thing. A spirit is somewhere inside the room. Unable to ignore what she's discovered, Eunha decides to investigate further. Following clues connected to Professor Hwangdo, she heads toward an old section of the school, a place that was once used as a storage room, now converted into a faculty room. According to Hwangdo's records, this location may be connected to supernatural activity. When Eunha finally arrives, she notices something unusual. Protective talismans have been placed around the entrance, exactly where she expected them to be. which confirms her suspicion. Professor Hwang Do knew something dangerous existed here, and he tried to seal it away. As Eunha examines the area, the prayer beads react again. The symbols appear once more, stronger than before. Something is close, very close. Then, as she stands alone in the hallway, a voice suddenly reaches her. To Eunha's surprise, the spirit doesn't seem hostile at all. Instead, it looks relieved that she can finally hear its voice. The spirit explains that it has tried to speak with her many times before, but until now, she was never able to listen, not because it wasn't there, but because something was preventing her from hearing it. As the conversation continues, the spirit suddenly notices the Walkman Eunha is carrying. Its expression immediately changes. For the first time, it seems genuinely shocked. The spirit stares at the old device for several seconds. Then it says something that leaves Eunha speechless. It asks whether she has finally recovered that memory from deep within her subconscious. That single sentence sends chills down her spine, because it suggests that the Walkman isn't just connected to the past. It's connected to memories she may have forgotten, memories that were buried for a reason. And somehow, those memories seem to involve Hae Soo. Eunha notices something strange about him. Lately, Hae Soo has been acting differently, and deep down, she has begun to suspect that he's hiding something. But before she can ask him directly, Hae Soo notices that something is wrong with her instead. He tells her that she's been acting strangely all day, distracted, lost in thought, almost as if she's waiting for something. At first, Eunha tries to brush it off, but Hae Soo doesn't seem convinced. He quietly watches her. For a brief moment, neither of them says anything. The sound of rain fills the silence between them. Then Hae Soo suddenly looks at Eunha and asks a simple question. "Are you hiding something from me?" The question catches her completely off guard. Eunha freezes. Her heart immediately begins to race, because lately she's been asking herself the exact same thing. Not about herself, about him. Deep down, Eunha has already started suspecting that Hae Soo is hiding something. Something important, something he refuses to tell anyone. As she stares at him, a single thought crosses her mind. "You're the one keeping secrets, aren't you?" For a moment, it feels as if both of them are trying to uncover the truth about the other. Standing beneath the same umbrella, yet separated by secrets neither of them is willing to reveal, then Hae Soo suddenly smiles, as if the tension never existed. "Whatever you're waiting for, it will happen soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow." The moment Eunha hears those words, she feels a chill run down her spine. It doesn't sound like a guess. It sounds like a warning, or perhaps a promise. As rain falls around them, Hae Soo quietly walks away, leaving Eunha alone with her thoughts. And for the first time, she begins to wonder if Hae Soo knows far more than he's letting on. After a moment, Eunha reaches beneath her clothes and pulls out the prayer beads Woo gave her. Her hands tremble slightly. She stares at the beads in silence, trying to calm herself down, trying to convince herself that she's overthinking things. But deep inside, she already knows that's not true. For the first time, Eunha begins to seriously consider the possibility that Hae Soo may be connected to the mystery in ways she never imagined. The clock slowly approaches 11 o'clock. Meanwhile, two students are making their way through the darkness. Taerin and Bona finally arrive at their destination. A massive tree stands alone in the darkness, hidden behind the school, wrapped tightly with thick ropes, almost as if someone tried to seal it away long ago. The moment the tree comes into view, Bona's anxiety becomes impossible to hide. She hesitates, questioning whether they should continue. But Taerin never stops walking. Before the ritual could begin, the story suddenly takes us back to the summer of 1998. Inside an empty classroom, a group of students secretly gathers after school. At the center of the room sits a strange notebook surrounded by candles and offerings. One of the girls proudly explains that she created it herself. Its purpose is simple, to invite a spirit into the world of the living, and she calls it the guest. The students quickly become interested in the notebook. One of them asks where the idea came from. The girl explains that she was inspired by a movie about bringing the dead back to life. but the ritual itself came from old supernatural magazines and forbidden stories. Then she reveals one of the requirements. The participants must use their own blood. The room immediately falls silent. Not everyone is convinced. One student immediately questions the ritual. Using blood feels dangerous, and performing something like this inside the school feels even worse. The student reminds everyone that strange rumors have surrounded the school for years. For a moment, the excitement disappears. Then suddenly, a voice comes from the classroom door. "What are you doing in someone else's classroom?" The students immediately turn toward the door. Standing there is an unfamiliar boy. The moment they recognize him, the atmosphere changes. Everyone has heard the rumors. The strange first-year student, the school troublemaker. Ignoring their nervous stares, the boy walks straight into the classroom. Then he glances at the candles, the offerings, and the notebook, before letting out a short laugh. The boy slowly scans the room. Then his eyes stop on one of the girls. Something is hidden behind her back. At first, nobody thinks much of it. Then the boy calmly speaks. "Put it down." The girl freezes. Before anyone can react, he reveals exactly what she's hiding, a utility knife. The entire room falls silent, because there is no way he should have known that. The girl's face turns pale. Startled by his words, she instinctively swings her hand. In an instant, the utility knife cuts across the boy's palm. Blood begins dripping onto the floor. The girl immediately panics. She drops the knife and desperately apologizes. But strangely, the boy doesn't seem angry. Instead, he quietly stares at the wound. Ignoring the others, the boy picks up the notebook. Even after everything that happened, he still doesn't believe in the ritual. To him, it's nothing more than a ridiculous joke. As he flips through the pages, he can't help but curse the people who created it. The instructions become stranger with every page. Yet instead of feeling afraid, he grows even more annoyed. The entire ritual sounds completely absurd. But for some reason, he keeps reading. As he keeps reading, one detail suddenly stands out. The ritual requires blood. The boy pauses for a moment, then looks down at his injured hand. Fresh blood is still dripping from the wound. For the first time, the room grows quiet, because one of the ritual's most important requirements has already been fulfilled. Years later, the same notebook is still here. Now it rests in Taran's hands. Standing beneath the old tree, she carefully reads each instruction. Beside her, Bona follows along in silence. The ritual requires a table, offerings, and a seat prepared for a special guest. Step by step, they begin preparing everything exactly as the notebook describes. Following the notebook's instructions, Taran and Bona carefully prepare the ritual. Taran had already learned most of the steps from the shaman's disciple. She knows the offerings, the rules, and one important condition: no one can perform the ritual alone. But as they continue, Bona grows increasingly nervous. Then she notices something strange. Taran suddenly stops moving and stares toward the willow tree. Bona can tell something is wrong. The ritual isn't finished yet. They're still missing the candle and the blood. Because of the rain, Taran decides to use a flashlight instead. Then she suddenly stops. Her eyes remain fixed on the willow tree. "What's wrong?" Bona asks again. But Taran doesn't answer. She just keeps staring into the darkness. Slowly, Taran raises the flashlight. At first, she thinks she's imagining things, so she checks again, and then again. The beam finally reaches the willow tree. A dark figure is standing beside the trunk. Taran's eyes widen. For the first time that night, she looks genuinely terrified. Then a finger snaps somewhere in the darkness, and everything goes silent.